Hello and welcome to this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me, where we focus less on the dis and more on the ability of what we can do. Join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, live on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook Live, where I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it.
Hello, everybody. It is D to the J with the roll away, and it is that time again. Wednesday is here. It is hump day, and the camels are in a race, and we don't know who's going to win. So we'll just pick one and go with it. Hope everybody is having a wonderful day today. We are live on Facebook, and we are also live on www.letgoradio.net. We are also affiliated with Kelly's Choice. Welcome to My CP Does Not Define Me, episode 61. Yes, 61 reasons to go back and watch all of the shows all over again because of the wonderful guests that I have had, like this one today. I am here with Isabella. Isabella, thank you so much for being on the show today. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am great. We had to reschedule Isabella. She was actually scheduled for the week before last, but due to the death in the family, we had to work some things around. But luckily, it worked out, and we still got her in July. So I was happy about that. For those of us that do not know, Isabella, would you please do me a favor and just tell us a little bit about yourself and share, whatever you'd like, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, so right now I'm a college student at Valdosta State University, and I major in English, focusing on editing, and I also minor in religious studies. And right now I work at the Spectator, the newspaper at Valdosta State University, as a newsletter editor, and I also do some writing for them as well. Mm-hmm. And right now I'm working on a big project of a magazine focused on CP awareness called the Cerebral Palsy Life, and that's been coming together, and so it's been a lot of work recently, but I'm doing really well. So
now you mentioned the CP Life. Just kind of what type of cerebral palsy do you have? Just to kind of let our viewers know, if you wouldn't mind sharing that.
Yeah, so my CP is mild spastic cerebral palsy, and for me, I've seen in my medical files referred both ways of affecting all four of my limbs, but I would argue it's kind of more affecting my legs than anything. So yeah, that's what I have.
That's a great point, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that gives me kind of a bridge to go through my first question. When you were diagnosed with CP, you said the doctors explained that it affected all four of your limbs. Mm-hmm. Did you notice that maybe in childhood and then kind of grew out of it a little bit, or how do you think it was as far as your childhood was concerned?
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with CP, I think, when I was 2 years old. Okay. And I guess maybe more at the time, it was more prevalent that it affected all four of my limbs. But then as I got older and I got the surgeries that would typically correct some spasticity, like the dorsal rhizotomy and all that stuff, I feel like, that gave me more mobility. So it kind of became, I guess, more of just affecting my legs specifically. So I guess it's really changed, but I mean, as I was growing up, I didn't really pay attention to it because I was just kind of doing my own thing and doing everything basically pretty close to what everybody else is doing.
Right now, and I love that you said what everybody else is doing, but you didn't say normal, because I hear so many people say I was normal just like everybody else. When you had your surgeries, did they do some of them when you were younger and some of them as you got older, or was it a majority of both?
I would say the big surgeries were happening when I was I guess the 3 to 4 range. So I really don't I don't remember anything really from that time period. But now that I've had like issues with my feet recently, I've had to get stuff corrected in the past 2 years.
Right.
So most of it was when I was little, and I'm glad that I don't have to remember that stuff because my parents have told me that it was really scary and I was in like a lot of pain and stuff. And so that's definitely something I'd rather not remember the experience for.
So what was like your support like growing up for your parents and your family, and tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I would say my main support were definitely my parents and my mom specifically. I think she was around for a lot of those doctor's appointments and stuff, so I would say definitely my mom has helped me a lot and kind of understands that I can do basically a lot of things. I just need assistance like every once in a while.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
And my family, they don't treat me any differently. They're just, they like to see what I'm doing, and they know that I can pretty much function like everyone else. And so they like to see that I'm doing like an internship that I have coming up, and, going to school in Georgia and that kind of thing. So that, it's kind of interesting seeing that and just how supportive they all are.
So, you talked about, majoring in English, and you talked about, minoring in religious studies. As you were growing up, what was high school like for you? What was middle school like for you? What kind of, how was that? How was the transition with CP, going to school and all of that?
Yeah, once I got to middle school, that was actually a pretty big change because I had moved like during the 5th grade. So I was coming to a school where I didn't know anybody. And I was also getting familiar with having to, walk to classes for a whole day. And so that was a new thing for me, and having to know when to stop to go pick up stuff and carrying a bunch of stuff. That was different. So I would say it's very similar to high school, but my school was a lot bigger. Mm-hmm. So I had to learn how to speak up for myself when I needed to have, extra time to walk between classes. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that kind of actually helped when I got into college because, most college campuses are pretty big. Like, even if they're a small school, they can be, they can still be pretty far
right.
apart.
Yeah.
So, knowing, how to plan your time out so that I can get from point A to point B, in a timely manner, was really interesting. And I joined band in middle school, like I think 7th grade or something like that.
I did too.
So I was like picking up, all these extra curricular activities. I even for a band, I even played French horn, which I guess, nobody wants to play French horn usually, but I really liked that. And so whenever I had to carry that around for performances and stuff, throughout middle school and high school, like people would be like, why did you play that? That's like so big.
Right.
Like, I can play it though. It's fine.
Did you use, actually, let me welcome some guys into the show here. Hi, Cindy. Yeah. Hey, Josh, thanks for coming in. Appreciate you watching with us. Kimberly, nice to see you. Thank you for being here, sweetie. Liz, appreciate you coming in. JP Jackson, the man of the hour, is in with us right now. Hope you and your wife are doing well. Welcome to the show, everybody. Please leave comments and questions if you have any. Thank you for being here with us on Let Go Radio and Facebook Live with Isabella. So we're talking a little bit about school life and kind of the adjustment there. Were you wheelchair bound then? Did you use crutches? What kind of, how was the movement? You talked about it being bigger. What helped you there?
Yeah, so I think more of like when I was in elementary school and right before I went into middle school, I used like AFO braces, so I didn't really need any mobility aid at the time. And like, so my entire life I kind of grew into the mindset of like, I can, walk from point A to point B, so that's what I'm going to do. Mm-hmm. And as I got older, I think like kind of looking back from now, I did have some foot issues I just didn't know at the time. But having a mobility aid probably would have helped me, from moving to point A to point B. I just, I really wanted to be able to, walk everywhere and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So mostly in my elementary days, I used AFOs, and then at one point I didn't really use them anymore. But if anything, I had PT like while I was at school, in elementary school. And then once I got to middle school, it was pretty similar to everyone else, where I was just going to classes. I picked up, band, and then I did other clubs, and then high school got even busier.
Right.
And then college to the point where I am now. So,
like, you talked about your mindset just a few statements ago. You said, I decided that I was going to, that I could walk from point A to point B, and that is what I was going to do. Now, in saying that, this is what I want to ask you. How did you get to that mindset of, all right, this is what I'm going to do, this is what I need to do, and this is how it's going to happen?
So I think, growing up, I was always kind of pushed to try things, to see, like, do I need to figure out a way to adapt it, that kind of thing. And so even all the times that I fell, I've fallen like a million times, I feel like, over the course of my lifetime. And
I think everybody with CP is gone, yep.
Yeah. I can definitely see that happening right now. So literally most of the time, I would fall down. I wouldn't even look at my knees or nothing. I would just be like, all right, we're just going to continue. And I would find out either from someone else, or if I actually just checked my knees, like, oops, I need to stop. So it's an interesting mindset. Like, it's a very positive mindset, but, over time I've kind of realized, like, okay, I need to actually slow down. Because there were times where, I might be going too fast, or, I might just be in like a rushed mind, and, I'd find myself falling more often. So it's definitely kind of adjusted over time, but, it's just knowing when you need to, take a step back and be like, okay, I need to slow down.
The amazing thing to me, what you just said, is sometimes even still what I'm trying to figure out. And I think some people in life are always go, move, do. Hey, Shayna, how are you? Thanks for tuning in, sweetheart. It is amazing to me that a lot of people in the world today, disability or not, they are so point A to point B, get in the car, go to work, go to school, do what you got to do. Next thing, laundry, come home, and they take care of the kids, and they do the life, and they go, I can't breathe, because they don't stop, and they don't take that moment to go, you know what, I need to slow down. And I that's a maturity level. And I honestly can say that's what CP gave me the ability to do. And a lot of people will understand that, and some don't. To be able to slow down. Hey, Siobhan, thanks for joining us, sweetheart. Appreciate it. It's one of those things where you go, I need to do this because I'm going to mess myself up. You said it. If I don't slow down, I'm going to keep falling. If I don't pay attention to what I'm doing, it's going to get worse. So did it become easier for you to slow down as you got older, or was it just kind of a getting into the routine of what slowing down actually was?
I think it did really become easier, like, once I got to college, because that's when I got like my first job, and then I had even extra responsibilities, so I was always kind of like, I need to go do this, and then I need to go to this meeting. Right. And even now I'm trying to work on like being more self-aware of like what my body's trying to tell me, in terms of like, do I need to like stop and sit down for a while, or do I need to ask somebody to like come, grab stuff for me, or whatever, like whatever aid I might need. And
do you find it easier as an adult to slow down, or was it easier when you were in high school or middle school or in band to take that moment and go, all right, let's back up a second? What do you think is easier?
Oh, that's interesting. I almost find it easier now as like an adult to try and slow down because a lot of the stuff that I'm doing, especially like when I'm at school and, doing my own stuff, it's kind of my own time. So like, I have to make the best decisions in those moments. And, because when I go to school, I guess for clarification, I'm from Florida. So like when I go to school, I'm in Georgia. So,
Well,
I
a little bit of a drive.
yeah, it's like 4 hours, I think, from like here, but yeah.
That's
And
a full commute.
yeah. So I stay on campus when I'm at school.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like especially my first year, it was kind of like, okay, I don't have my parents right next door or something,
Right.
to like help me. So I have to be really careful about what I'm doing and and just make sure that I'm just being very careful and slow. I think it's gotten easier within this like last couple years with the most recent surgeries that I've had because I've had to actually become even more aware of what my body is doing and just kind of the long-term impacts of, if I keep doing the, same things, then it might be bad, health.
I love the way you said that, honestly.
Yeah.
Cindy actually had a great comment here. She said, that's why I tell people I go slow because I don't like to fall. And I, this is a question that I've asked several people, and Josh said, wow, long day. So yeah, that is quite a commute. But one of the things that I tell a lot of people when I'm speaking or when I'm doing conferences or anything like that, and they ask about surgeries, to me, every surgery changes the way you have to do things. No matter how minute the surgery is, no matter how big the surgery is, when you have a disability on top of everything else, you have to readapt to how you do things. So you can't let your body do the same things that they did before because they tried to correct something on the surgery, and then your body's like, oh, I can't do that anymore. So the W sit is not an option. I can't, and I'm like, well, crap, that's the way I used to sit my whole life. Now what do I do? I mean, so it is an adaptation. Do you feel that the surgeries have helped you and made it better for you in the long run?
Yeah. These last two surgeries were both on my feet. So my feet were like really flat before, and like all the stuff that I've had done to them. The biggest goal of mine was to make it pain-free when I walk, because over time, like I literally was in pain when I walked, and it's just weird to think about because I had people ask me that while I was growing up, oh, does it hurt to walk and all that stuff, and it didn't used to, but over time with the more stuff that I was doing, it got worse. And so the other big goal for this one was also that I wouldn't have to have any other foot corrections and like for a long time. So it's definitely a lot better in the long run. It's just kind of getting my body adapting to how my feet are because my body used to like compensate a lot.
and then you don't have to, and it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, and it's such a it's interesting because it's like there's the physical aspect, but there's like such a big, mind aspect that your body is so used to the other way, that it's almost like really difficult to make it, get out of that pattern.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about this, but JP said this. I kept a power chair on campus in the administrative office for those long hauls from one end of the campus to the other. Thankfully, Shriners Hospital donated the chair for me, but I tried to walk as much as possible on the campus as I could. So again, you want that freedom of independence and you want to do what you need to do, but talking about the mindset when you have that surgery and you're like, oh my God, this is so weird. What do I do now?
Yeah.
You said it. Okay, walking on crutches, your body compensates. You get used to the way you move the crutch, you swing your hip. You move the crutch, you swing your hip. You have a surgery to correct that, and you don't swing your hip, and you don't have the muscle in your leg to pick it up. You're like, Houston, we have a problem. What do I do now? So you find a new way to move or a new way to sit or a new way to dress, and it's different. It's different. So I want to go back to your parents for just a second. Did they, you've been through all this, and I think you said your age earlier. I'm not sure if you did or not. Wherever you are now, because I know it's not polite to ask a woman her age, so I won't do that. But as you've grown up to the point that you're at now, did your parents always strive for you to be as independent as you could, or was there, did they sit down and have the talk with you? Look, Isabella, this is going to be this way. The world is going to be this way. What was that like for you in the stages of life? Would you talk just a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think growing up, I definitely had more of the, like, we're going to, try to do as many things as I possibly can. And I can, do most things. And I've definitely had the talk a few times of, okay, we're going to go to like Disney World or something, like, do you want a wheelchair or something to, so you don't have to walk around all the time. Right. And at the time, with the previous mindset that I had, I was kind of like, nope, I'm going to walk this whole park, and then, I'm really exhausted at the end.
And you're like, oh my God, it's 900 degrees.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I definitely learned from, that first experience, because ever since that one time, I've always gotten a wheelchair after that. And, and so that has its own, I guess, perks. But, and then it's funny that it was mentioned that in the comment about having a scooter to use for longer distances, because once I started college, my mom and like my grandparents were like, you should probably get a scooter so you can like walk around. And I was like, no, I got it. There's like a bus that goes around school. Like I can take that if I need to. But I definitely probably should have gotten a scooter. Because I kept thinking like, is this going to make me look lazy? But I mean, I know better now that it's not, because it's going to help, I can be more mobile and I don't have to let my body suffer.
Sure. That's a great point. That's a great point. Your determination is incredible. I mean, just going through the first 23 minutes of this show, I hear you, and don't get me wrong, people with CP are determined in a lot of ways. People with cerebral palsy understand sometimes they need to help. Sometimes the surgery doesn't work. Sometimes the surgery stinks and, you have to go another way. It's like Kim said here. I had my last surgery last January and it stunk. And of course, CP gets worse as you get older, but doctors say no. And this is kind of where you touched a little bit on this at the beginning of the show. Doctors don't know everything, and they can give you an idea. We can do this to correct this, but you have to talk about it with your parents and your family. Don't just go into a surgery and say, I'm going to do this. Research it first. Find out what the effects are. Find out what the side effects are. Find out what people could and couldn't do after the thing. You really have to research this thing. Now, about the scooter, I'm going to tell you this. I think what you just said, and I love the way you said it. At that time, I was like, no, I didn't want to do it. I'm independent. I'm going to get around Disney World. I'm going to get around school. I don't need a scooter. And then you're like, I should have listened to my mom. Oh, geez, what do I do now? Because it's different. It is, but that is so cool that you push through, that you are an amazing individual, that you have, taken these obstacles and said, look, I want to accomplish this. And I've got two comments here that I want to read you. JP Jackson said this: I prefer a manual wheelchair, but when I was on campus, the hills just made a manual wheelchair really challenging. But this one right here, Siobhan, she nailed it. Hey there, I haven't had surgery since I was 9, and that was a long time ago. But what I can tell you is, I tell everyone, never give up, never, ever, ever, ever. I've only known you for about 2 minutes, but you are amazing. So to be able to hear this, and your story is
Mhm.
inspiring because you have a different aspect of mindset than a lot of people I've interviewed. And no one else has a bad mindset or a wrong one. Yours is just different. And it's
Yeah.
more, I'm not going to use a chair. I'm not going to use crutches. I'm going to do what I've got to do. And that's it.
Mhm.
So now that you're in college,
Mhm.
you're writing, you're doing all this newspaper stuff, you're pretty much everywhere. Your plate's very full, as we talked about off the air.
Mhm.
So how is the movement now? How is the pain now? What are you dealing with at this point?
So, in terms of like the foot pain, it's basically pretty close to a 0. It's just so much better.
Good. That's awesome.
And the only thing is I just still have to get some corrections that weren't done to the right foot, because it's like another aspect of the surgery thing, like where, doctors don't know until they get onto the operating table and they look at your foot and all that stuff. Especially when it comes to CP, because a lot of it's not like going to be textbook of,
That's true.
and
there's no manual where it says CP number 7.568.
yeah.
This happens.
Yeah, and definitely, like, when it came to my feet, they were like, yeah, that's definitely not a textbook look, x-ray of a foot. And so I do have to get some additional stuff done on the right foot, but it's basically like everything's structurally correct. So it's definitely interesting from that perspective of just how they've learned, and now they're going to be able to add on to that stuff. And so I'm basically walking around a lot better. And basically pain-free. It's just having to build up the strength that I lost between the surgeries last year, and with everything going on in the world, it kind of, just threw my endurance out the window.
Yeah, and physical therapy is going to help bring that back. Once you get into your routine and you realize, oh man, this sucks, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to get through it. I'm going to go. You're at the end, you're going to go, I am strong now. I can lift bus by myself. It's just, everybody wants to be in that routine where they have what they need to survive. But I do like this here, and I just want to see what you think about it. JP said, in my opinion, CP doesn't necessarily get worse. It's the effects CP has on the body that get worse over time. The wear and tear that occurs when the body is forced to accommodate for something that it's not necessarily designed to do.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that statement, because if I didn't clarify earlier, the CP played a factor into why my feet were really flat, and because they used to be turned in, and then one surgery actually corrected that, and then over time, with the lot, like I was mentioning, where a lot of activity and like doing a job and like school at the same time, like all that stuff kind of made my body accommodate in weird ways it shouldn't have. And that's what caused the pain. And that's the CP actually affected like tendons and stuff, where my feet started turning out. And so things were really tight, and even like shocked my doctor, like on the table, where like, he had to repair a tendon because it was like turning my foot out really far when he was trying to correct it. And so it was definitely interesting to learn that stuff.
Now, as far as your foot turning in, because I had my feet used to roll in when I walked, and I had the pins across my ankles to correct that. Did they basically build you an arch? I think we talked a little bit about this off.
Yeah, they basically, so what they ended up doing, for the left foot, they had to put in this like little wedge thing in my foot to kind of push it straight. And they also had to kind of build an arch where they put like 2 screws in my heel, and a lot of ankle stuff, because my ankle was kind of wonky. And like I said, they had to like move a tendon around and repair it because it was out of place. And so basically they had to fuse some joints so that my foot doesn't go back out.
See, my thing with fusion though, and I've heard a lot about it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like fusion unless it's Super Saiyan fusion, because then it's totally awesome. But I'm just, I just the fusion thing, because then when they fuse it together, you can't move it, and that makes the arthritis and the inflammation and because me hitting arthritis at 40, I'm like, wait a minute, you ain't supposed to be here yet. Why are you here now? Can you wait 20 years, please? Till I get in the 60s somewhere. I don't right now. And
that was
like, no.
Yeah, so like I'm only 22 years old, and they were, explaining, like when I was getting my right foot done, they were a bit hesitant on doing the foot joint fusions because I was so young. They were like, usually it's for like a lot older people, but the way it was explained was basically for the left foot doing all the joint fusions was because I already lost that particular movement, like the side to side movement. So like even if they fused it, I'm still not gonna I'm not gonna be able to do it. But I couldn't do it before anyway. So and I don't have any pain from doing it. It's just it's just there's joints fused, and that's it.
Well, we're about halfway through, and I want to get into some of your college stuff and a little bit more of that, because I can see right now we're definitely going to have you back for a part 2, because
definitely.
And a lot of my guests, like I said, your mindset is awesome. I love the way that you explain things, and that's kind of why I'm letting you talk and just kind of go through what you're going through. When you decided to write, and then you said you major in, I think you said English. What do you write about? Where does it come from? When did that start?
So it started, I think, kind of more into like my second year of college. When I got into college, I was actually a bio major, and then I eventually changed everything and I got into English. And what kind of started that actually was when I changed my second major, which was accounting. And
oh, thank God.
and basically I was like, there's a part of me that I wanted to do a minor, and I was kind of thinking about the different things that I've done, in the past, and I really enjoyed writing. So there was actually a professional writing minor that used to be offered at my school. And they, I went to my counselor and I was like, can I do this? And I spoke with the head of the department and explained, the different types of writing that I've done in high school. And I got involved with the school newspaper, and there's like literally a class where you're basically learning how to write for a newspaper, and you get stuff pitch you from the editors of stories that are going on at school. And so I did that for a year, and then I applied for a position as copy editor, and that's essentially where there's somebody that's kind of reading it over and making sure all the questions that should be asked for the story have been answered, and just making sure everything is good to go. And and I've been writing ever since, and I changed my major to English because I really liked editing. So I've been doing a lot of that.
Let me ask you this question, and I want to watch the expression on your face when I ask.
Okay.
When you write, does it give you a sense of freedom from yourself?
Yes. Yeah. I honestly, yes. It's just been amazing. Like, it's very therapeutic. And this past year, I think it was in like fall of 2020, where I was back at school, and I was in a magazine class, and we had an opportunity to actually pitch an idea to a local magazine in Valdosta. And one of them was a health magazine, and I actually was like, what if I write about my experience with my foot surgery on my right foot? And they actually really liked it because of the perspective, having the direct perspective of me. from the the actual experience and sharing that story and how flat foot deformity is not a good thing to continue to have, because it just affects a lot of other people. And so it was really interesting. It was very therapeutic, and I actually got that published.
Wow.
Weirdly, like, it got published on the day of my left foot surgery, so I didn't find out till like the day after.
You were like, I was kind of knocked out yesterday.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting journey, and just being able to kind of pick stories and find topics that I'm passionate about. And I've helped a lot of people like learn how to edit their papers better, and so it's been crazy.
After the show, I can tell you that right now. JP said, I could use a copy editor. I'm very bad about reading an email 20 times and still miss something right after I hit.
I can say that I still do that sometimes, where I'll type out an email and I'm just like reading through it. I'm just like, did I miss something? Because I'm thinking about, oh man, I hope I didn't, put a typo in there.
Like, so this next question might not be as easy,
Okay.
but I do want to, because there's two things, and I'm again, this is going to be probably one of the most powerful parts of the show, and I want to make sure that we hit this well.
Okay.
What is the hardest thing for you to write about, and why?
Hardest thing. Oh man. Honestly, I think it was hard to write about my surgery experience because it was so recent at the time, and just thinking about like how anxious I was like right beforehand, and how it impacted my parents, and the struggles of having to have help with practically everything after being so independent for so long. It was actually really hard. But getting that stuff out there and kind of sharing that experience, hopefully helps someone else, and to be more aware of, okay, it's going to be a struggle, but understand that the outcome is going to be so much better in the long run. And so like health topics are interesting because I can relate to it so much. So whenever I do write about any health topics, I think about myself, do I need to work on this? Or,
you put yourself in that perspective.
Yeah. And so it's interesting when I get to talk to sources for those stories and how, I compare my life to it and everything.
So what is the most passionate thing that you love to write about?
Oh man, I like so many things. It's hard to choose like a particular topic.
If you say puppies and potatoes, I'm gonna lose it. Like,
no, I would probably also say it's like health related topics again, because I've just gone through so much myself that I've kind of I understand, the struggles of, like, especially now as an adult, like having to do with insurance and all that, and just going through like PT, because I know, some people associate PT with just for, older folks, and it's for anyone.
That's well said. I think, and because I'm stubborn, and I used to go to therapy until I was 18, and I ain't been back since. I think y'all crazy. I ain't going back, and I'm like, now my body's like, dude, you should have gone back. You're so tight. You can't pull a $1 bill out of your wallet. I'm like, I'm not that tight, and they're like, yeah, you are. So it does. Stretching is so beneficial. I thank God that I got into martial arts, because had I not got into martial arts, I'd be a ball of tightness. I mean, it's different. It's different when you do it for 10 years and then you stop.
Yeah.
Your body's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you sleeping 19 hours a day? Come on.
Yeah, I used to do some martial arts stuff. Like, I think I did it only for 2 years, because I really wanted to do horseback riding, because I did some equine therapy when I was like younger, and then I wanted to do like actual like riding lessons and stuff. And so I got into that, I think when I was like 9 or 10, and I did it for like at least 10 years. And now that I'm in college, I haven't been able to do it as often. And especially with like these surgeries, I'm trying to at least get mobile to where I'm walking everywhere.
Sure.
Before I, try to get up on a mounting block and get on a horse. So,
I rode from the time I started riding when I was about 5, and I rode till I was 16. They had like equestrian programs and the 4-H club and all that stuff, so I was able to do that as well. So our backgrounds are kind of similar now. We're hitting the point of background where we did a lot of the same things. What martial arts did you study?
Oh man, I think the academy, I think it was called like Bushido.
Okay.
And so I did that for a while, and my dad actually used to do a lot of martial arts growing up, and so I got into that, and then I was at a point where my parents were like, "Are you going to do horseback riding, or you want to do martial arts?" And I was like, "Horseback riding all the way."
Is that something you think you would get back into martial arts again?
Maybe. I think once I am not as tight, I could think about that. Yeah. Because my brother, my dad actually recently did some Aikido, and that's
talking about a hard martial art. Boy, Aikido, that's my brother studied Aikido for a while, and a long while. So, he thinks he's a big shot of the world, but everybody gets hit in the mouth every once in a while. So,
I feel like also though, if I got on a horse right now, I would like my legs would just be so like tight. They'd be like, "Oh my gosh, like we haven't done this in so long."
I think a lot of the programs now, they have the assisters where you can actually get on and stretch your hip abductors and all that, and get you to where before you're getting on the giant Clydesdale going, "We're moving," because I know when I got on the horse, I was like, "Hi, this is fun. My legs are supposed to stretch this way, but they do." So it's I used to do. I think one of the exercises we did was called the dead man, where I would get across the top of the rail and then I would lay across the horse to stretch my back out and to stretch the, so they again, the therapeutic programs had a lot of that within the adaption of getting on the horse, how to get on the horse. Of course, that's when I was like 10 and I weighed like 89 pounds soaking wet. Now I'm like 226, and I think, you think you getting your big butt up there? You better try again. I'm like, can I get a grappling hook, please? And the horse is like, you ain't getting up here. He just gives you that look like, you better eat some oats or something. I don't think you're gonna be getting on me.
Yeah, I think the last time I rode was about this time last year, and it was so interesting because of the way my feet were corrected. Like the way that I was putting like more weight through my heels, so I could actually notice that was a lot better.
Right.
In terms of putting it in the stirrups and that kind of thing.
Did you ride English or Western?
It was definitely like Western, but it was more focused on like the horsemanship. So like doing a lot of groundwork and doing just basic like flat work. But I've had a test of like trying jumping and stuff, and it was definitely exciting. But yeah, it's more about the connection with the horse and like that kind of thing.
Well, I've got one more question for you. We got about 15 minutes left in the show, and I want to talk about this. I've actually never talked about it on the show before. You minored in religion, religious studies. Now, and I think I could talk about this with you because I think you're level-headed enough to not go, you're wrong. Religion is always a touchy topic with people. Because it's, people believe in what they want to believe in, and I totally respect that and totally understand that. What made you decide to get into religious studies? Why did you go about that? How did you get into that?
So it was another kind of thing is actually I found out about it through when I was writing a particular story, and I found myself talking a lot about religion, and I was just kind of like, I didn't realize how passionate I got about it. And so I decided to do that and to kind of familiarize myself with different people's mindsets, because I thought, it would be really helpful actually when it comes to like editing stuff, because a lot of what goes into copy editing is kind of thinking like, okay, what's the reader going to think about this? Like, those kinds, like different analytical questions when you're going through a story, and, just kind of understanding the reason why, people think about certain things was really interesting to me.
Right.
And so that's kind of how I got into it.
So now, and I guess this is kind of the touchy part of it. When you write a religious piece, you've got people that are going to read it and go, wow, that makes it got a lot of sense. You've got the people that are going to read it that go, what in the world is she talking about? And then you've got people that are going to go, I ain't reading this crap. I don't believe in that over there. I believe it. This happened. I'm not even going to pick up the paper. You can't please everybody.
Yeah.
How do you write the piece to where is it, again, how can I ask this? What perspective do you put yourself in when you're writing a piece like that?
So you kind of have to put into a more open-minded perspective. I don't think there's a particular perfect way that you're going to be able to satisfy everyone, because there's always going to be someone that's like, I'm not going to really read this, or they'll just skim it and they'll be like, okay, I don't want to read it. So just kind of being open-minded to just, there's going to be some rejection, but, if they're able to read through it and kind of see the different perspective of that religion, they might want to read more about it, or get involved with that event. It kind of just depends.
Awesome. So let me ask you this. Let me just turn it just a little bit. What has studying religious studies done for you in your life? What impact has it had? Where are you at, with your mindset now that you've done that? Do you look at things totally different now? And I hope that question's not too big.
It's interesting because I've taken a few classes that kind of look at those kind of philosophical questions. It's interesting how different religions kind of accept people, and just the way that they go about it and their routines are interesting. Because growing up, I'm not like the most religious person out there, but there's definitely a routine to some of it, and being able to ask those questions of like, why does this happen, and kind of looking deeper into the text and stuff. Right. It's really interesting, and so I just kind of have a more open mindset to different other people's way of thinking.
So you kind of broadened your horizon.
Yeah, and one of the classes I just finished taking, I think back in June, was kind of looking into like the philosophy of happiness, and so a lot of it's going to be up to interpretation of the person. But I think that's kind of what makes it interesting, is that it kind of does mean something to different people. And
well said.
That's what makes us all human.
Let me ask you this, and this is the last question I have for you. I want to turn this last question based on CP. I mean, you've seen all different types of CP. You've seen all different types of disability. You've wrote about many, many different things. Do you think the concept of open-mindedness is not there in the world with disabilities, and it needs to be? Do you think that's the biggest problem with it?
I think that is an aspect of a bigger problem, because I think people in general forget that CP kind of varies, from person to person. So it's kind of hard to be able to pinpoint and be like, okay, when you're an adult, this is going to happen, because they don't know. Yeah, and that can go honestly for any disability. And so I guess it makes it harder for people to know how to go about those types of conversations. But I think, if you spread more awareness about it, whether it's CP or any other disability, I think people can be more open and be like, okay, we can have conversations about CP.
I think the awareness, so many people have said there is so much awareness for children. There's so many different things for children. There's so many aspects of children. But once you reach that teenage, once you reach that adult, you kind of get lost because everybody says, oh, well, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people say, they're adults now, they're fine. And we're like, hello?
Right.
I'm CP,
yeah.
I wonder, I ask myself, and I hear society. Well, society starts off with one opinion. One opinion comes out of somewhere, and then another person hears that opinion. You know what, Bobby? I agree with that. And then Bobby agrees with it, and Billy agrees with it, and Chantel agrees with it, and Yamika agrees with it, and then one person doesn't agree. You're wrong. How could you? And then it gets into this big ball of what people think.
Yeah,
when do we stop worrying about what people think and start accepting ourselves as we are?
Yeah, and that is kind of actually a great segue into why I actually wanted to start the magazine and stuff, because I think CP awareness is actually very focused on children, and that's very understandable. But once, like you said, once you hit that kind of teenage to like adult age, it's it's kind of like up in the air of like, okay, stuff might happen, and you'll have to figure out how to deal with it. And so I really want to bring that kind of awareness, as well as the different types of CP, because I know it really does vary for everyone.
Yes, it does. And the magazine is called
The Cerebral Palsy Life.
Okay. And when did you start writing that?
So I actually started this month, and I have a few of my friends helping me out, like get different stories. So I've actually talked to a few people in regards to like writing stories, and so it's coming along. I have a rough timeline to having the first issue out in September. So I'm definitely, the big thing right now is just getting the stories together. But it's really interesting because a lot of people really like the unique idea and kind of the goals behind the magazine. And so I can't wait to like finish creating the first issue and getting it out. So it'll be really cool.
I have enjoyed having you on this show today. This has been a mind-opening show for me to hear you speak, and how eloquent and how diverse you are in what you say and what you do. I'd love to get in there with you on the magazine. If you want to interview me for a story or whatever, that's fine too. Don't have to say so on the air. I'm just kind of throwing that out there. I believe that people with CP need to realize that they are important, and it's not about what people say. It's about what we do as individuals to get ourselves out there. We have to open our mouths. We have to speak. Yeah. We have to make our voices be heard. Oh, where have I heard that before? Oh, yeah. Edwina Wilson, the CEO and founder of Kelly's Choice. Let your voice be heard, and, use what you've got. Don't let anybody intimidate you. You've got to go for the gusto and really, do what you have to do, because nobody's going to do it for you. If you don't mind, would you be willing to share how people can get a hold of you, how they can reach out to you about the magazine or anything like that? Any social media that you'd like to share to get a hold of you? Yeah,
so I'm on Facebook. If you just type in my name, Isabella Schneider, and you should see me on there. And then I do have an Instagram. It is IM Schneider _11. And if you want to get in touch with the magazine, you can just go to email me at thecerebralpalsylife@gmail.com.
Okay.
And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Well, guys, as I've said before, Isabella, if you'll just stay with me for a few minutes after the conclusion of the outro plays, I have a couple of questions off air. Mm-hmm. I want to ask you guys. Thank y'all so much for tuning into the show today. Like I said, we're definitely going to have Isabella back. That's one of the things I'm going to talk with her off air about. I want to thank all of my audience members that came in today for the comments. Thank you guys so much for listening and supporting. Please share this show. This show needs to be shared to groups, to CP groups, to organizations, because the more we get it out there, the more they're going to learn that just because we have CP doesn't make us different. It makes us unique as individuals and who we are. I want to thank Isabella for coming in on the show today. We love this. This is episode 61. I can't believe we've had 61 episodes of My CP Does Not Define Me already. If you guys want to reach out to me, you can email me at carterdj85@gmail.com. You can also email me on Yahoo at the Sports Minion Radio Show at yahoo.com. My Instagram is My CP Does Not Define Me. My Twitter account is My CP Does Not Define Me at Minion Sports. Facebook, DJ Carter. Blog, carterdj85 at wix.com. I'm basically everywhere and have every piece of social media out there, so you can find me mostly with My CP Does Not Define Me. We air every Wednesday at 2 p.m. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or come back, please email me. Please let me know. Hit me up on Facebook, but don't do it at 2 o'clock in the morning because I have to sleep, unfortunately. So as I always say, if you can't be good, be bad, but be good at it. This is D to the J with the roll away, saying we will see you next week for episode 62 of My CP Does Not Define Me.
All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this week's episode of My CP Does Not Define Me. But don't worry, you can catch us again next Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time on www.letgoradio.net and on Facebook and YouTube at My CP Does Not Define Me. Remember, I'm your host, D to the J with the roll away. And if you can't be good, be bad. But be good at it. We'll see you next week.